Welcome to the Daily Dose. Today is March 5th, 2019. So a report out of the Washington Examiner alleges that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez may have violated campaign finance laws during her run for office by not properly divulging how her money was spent through the use of a slush fund. The way it was set up was that her chief of staff, a man named Saikat Chakrabarti, please excuse the pronunciation if I butchered that, set up political action committees, PACs, to receive campaign donations, and then took those donations and diverted those directly to two other LLCs under the auspices of consulting, or the pretense of consulting. And the way that works is that the LLCs are then not under any obligation to divulge how that money is spent. So they can spend it on literally whatever they want, and that effectively launders the money. It becomes dark money. So you can take as much money as you want, put it into the LLC, and then the LLC can do whatever it wants with that money without reporting how that money is spent. So it certainly doesn't look good. The optics are not good on AOC and her chief of staff. People who have commented on the matter, who are experienced in this area, like lawyers and such, describe the arrangement as really weird. Let's read this excerpt right here. Campaign finance attorneys describe the arrangement as really weird and an indication that there's something amiss. They said there was no way of telling where the political donations went, meaning they could have been pocketed or used by the company to pay for off-the-books campaign operations. So whatever that means. So there's a lot going on here. There's a lot to unpack here. First of all, let's take a look at who is responsible for setting up this operation. Again, his name is Saikat Chakrabarti, and he's no stranger to politics. He was an organizer in the Bernie campaign in 2016. So he's been in politics at least that long, so at least 3 years, but probably longer than that. And he has his professional background is that of a Silicon Valley entrepreneur, so he's a tech guy. And for his part, he went on Rachel Maddow's show in 2016, and is quoted as saying, "Our idea is really to run a single unified presidential style campaign that is going to look a lot like the Bernie Sanders campaign. The campaign infrastructure and fundraising is set aside from the campaigning." So this is probably what he was talking about. He was probably talking about this infrastructure, this LLC style money laundering infrastructure, while he was doing this interview in 2016. So I don't know if you want to call that a slip up, but he was probably referring to what we're seeing right now. So clearly this sort of structure of campaign financing has been been going on for a while. For his part, I take him at his word. I don't think he's actually taking the money and just pocketing it, or spending it frivolously on an apartment or fancy clothing or whatever. I don't think that's what's going on here. I think he actually is true to his word when he's saying he wants to set up a campaign infrastructure for a Bernie Sanders style campaign. And this infrastructure that we're seeing with AOC is a manifestation of that. The only real question is the legality of it. Is it illegal? Is he violating campaign finance laws? Which is yet to be determined. We will find out once the FEC looks into it more further. My hunch is that he's not breaking any laws. These people aren't stupid. They know what they're doing, and they've done their research. Another thing worth pointing out is that Chakrabarti is not in need of something like $800,000. He's already a rich man, and setting up all this infrastructure and also risking legal repercussions for $800,000 for a guy like him is not a worthwhile risk. So pocketing the cash is really not what I think he's doing here. It would just be a foolish risk. It would be very foolhardy for a man in his position to do something like that. So So what is going on? So given Chakrabarty's political persuasion and his background, having worked with the Bernie campaign, I think he actually is setting up basically a fund, a pipeline, a campaign finance pipeline for far left extremists in the 2020 campaign, 2020 races, congressional district races that are coming up. That list that AOC was referring to a couple days ago when she was complaining about Democrats who didn't vote along the party line, that list is real, and that list is where a lot of this money is going to be spent. This money is going to be delivered or routed to far left Democrats, extremists, to challenge incumbent Democrats. So there has to be a mechanism, a means through which money, campaign finance money, can be supplied to these individuals, because they don't have the privilege of tapping into the Democratic PAC coffers. This is what happened to Bernie in 2016 when he had to raise all his money from nickel and dime donations from millions of people across the country, $25 donations, $28 donations. I believe his average donation size was like $27, but he had such broad reach and such exposure that he was actually able to make some noise. And so the far left wing party, or faction I should call it, is preparing for round 2 of this operation in 2020, just on a much, much bigger scale. Now, chances are that's what happened with AOC in her primary race. My guess is that this operation was well into motion before AOC even considered running for office. And then once they saw that there was a weak district in the Bronx, a lot of this money went to AOC from this style of campaign finance. And so chances are AOC is really the first real test of this structure, of this finance structure. And they probably even picked a person like AOC, just clearly an unintelligent, inexperienced, just pretty much just a stupid person, just to see how far they can go with it, to see if it would even work. Basically the premise being, if they can get someone like AOC into office and vault her into prominence, then they can do this with anybody. And you know what? They're right. They're not wrong. These are very smart people. These are people who understand the game at a level much better than incumbent Democrats and older party establishment Democrats, because they understand the tech game. They understand the tech aspect of all this, with the proper planning and execution, anyone could be vaulted into a position of prominence, thereby threatening more established politicians like the Cory Bookers and the Kamala Harrises and all these other people who really are going to have a tough time dealing with this far left assault. This loosely follows a plot of a Coen Brothers movie from the mid-90s called The Hudsucker Proxy, where basically a multinational corporation, a bad actor in the corporation inserted an idiot, a complete idiot, played by Tim Robbins, as the CEO of the corporation in order to depress the stock price and execute a hostile takeover. That's essentially what we're seeing right here, the Democratic Party. This is a hostile takeover from the left. The problem is part of that faction is Silicon Valley. And right now they're basically trying to take over the entire narrative, and from what I can tell, they're successfully doing so. So this little blip in the radar, this little bump in the road, is a slight peek behind the curtains of what's going on. Now, I don't know what's going to happen in this particular case. It might, the complaint might grow to something bigger. Somebody might have to fall on the sword for this. Chakrabarty might have to resign his post. He might have to pay $1 million fine. Maybe even, I don't know, I doubt he's going to serve any jail time, but he might have to resign his position and pay a hefty fine, none of which is going to affect him seriously in his life. But the show will go on. This is going to happen one way or another. So no matter what happens with this FEC complaint, if anything at all, the bottom line is this operation is clearly in motion. We're probably just seeing one small tip of the iceberg of a much, much bigger operation here that is meant to funnel ginormous amounts of money into far left extremist people to challenge Democratic districts, and if necessary, those people will just be manufactured. They will find, rather than finding people already running for office from the far left, they'll just pick them. They'll just go to a bar like they did for AOC, find some cute guy or girl who can toe the party narrative, and then thrust her into a race. The establishment Democrats tried doing this with Beto O'Rourke against in Texas against I forget his name, but the Texas senator. But they don't know this game as well as the Silicon Valley tech guys do. So they don't understand how this game is played in a new tech age. And people like Chakrabarty, they do understand that game. So this is going to be an interesting 2020 election season. And I know we hear this during every election season, but I do feel in reality this time around it will be the most important election season of my lifetime. So stay tuned for that. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.